Hi guys, this is strategy number 5 on how to buy a property without a payslip. This is Stelo Kumalo from Property Sales Machine, and I'd really love to share this with you. So let's get right into it. Guys, today I want to just get into this strategy. It's one of my personal favorites. It's Property Stokvel, right? And I'd like to get into the nitty-gritties, the pros and cons and all that of a property Stokvel, right? Now, before we get into a property Stokvel, let's rather maybe quickly just look at what is a Stokvel in the first place, right? What is a Stokvela, as we call it in the townships, right? What is a Stokvel? Look, a Stokvel is when a group of individuals that have the same goal, right, come together and put resources together in order to achieve the goal, to help each other achieve the goal, where the goal would not have been easily achievable if they were doing it on their own, right? Now, normally these are individuals that know themselves, or rather that know each other, and it can often be between friends and things like that, family even, and things like this. So obviously the relationship between the people is the greatest strength and security that gives people the confidence, or often gives people the confidence, to go into Stokvels in general. I'm not even talking about property Stokvels. I mean, you all know the Stokvel. I mean, our mothers, as we grew up in the townships, had kitchen parties and Stokfellas where they'd save money up so that they can buy a lot more groceries than usual in December, so that we could all have, you know, a jolly festive season, right? So that's obviously a Stokvel, right? Just a bit of history. How the name even Stokvel came about was when back, because this is a term that is largely used in South Africa, or at least Southern Africa, right? This was back when the Afrikaner farmers would come together and bring their stocks, like various livestock. They'll bring it together and create sort of like a market, like a weekend market, where they collectively sell their stock to the market, right, or at the market. So that name then caught on and kind of stayed with the practice of putting resources together in order to achieve a mutual goal, or the same goal within the group of people that put resources together. Now, of course, Stokvels sometimes called, or rather, maybe let's rather go straight into the property Stokvels, right? Now, similarly, property Stokvels are when people come together to try and see if they can maybe buy property collectively, because for one reason or the other, they cannot do it individually. Or they can, but they can maybe do it at a larger scale as a collective. So that's why people now have gotten into this new craze and excitement about getting to property Stokvels, to put resources together and buy property as a collective, right? Now, of course, this is a fantastic idea. It's a wonderful idea, but it's not by any means a new idea, right? Banks were founded on this idea. At least many of them were. They call them largely in Europe as building societies. We had building societies here in South Africa for the longest time, where people would bring money together, and others would then come and borrow the money for building, right? People would go purchase land, and it's sort of like home loans, right? Where people take money to the bank, and now that the bank has the money, the bank can borrow out the money to people that want to build, and then they'll get the repayments back. And so the people that were members of the building society would either benefit by getting the home loans from the building society, or even on the interest that would be earned or generated by the repayments on the building society. But let's not get into too much on the building societies. Let's rather stick to the matter at hand, right? Property Stokvels. Now that we've defined what property Stokvels are, or rather we've defined what Stokvels are in general, and we've spoken a little bit about property Stokvels, let's maybe get into examples of what things people might do with property Stokvels. Now, this is largely could be used even if you don't have a payslip, right? It's not exclusively for people that don't have a payslip, but you can use it. You can get into the property market using property Stokvels if you do not have a payslip. Now, examples could be, let's say you want to go on vacation, right? And you and your 5 friends or 10 friends, whatever, want to go on vacation every once in a while, and you've got a lovely vacation spot that you really like, but the problem is every time you need to go pay rentals, and this is now getting a bit expensive. So you could bring resources together, put money together, either to go buy the property for cash or to get into an installment sale agreement. Look at, I think, the previous episode for more details about how installment sale agreements work. So you could collectively get into an installment sale agreement and buy the property over time. And now once you've gotten it, you could convert it into a timeshare type, not necessarily convert it, but you could manage it as a timeshare where each one of you could have a certain amount of time to use the property over the year and things like this, right? That's option one. Option two is you could maybe want to go buy a large piece of land. Let's say me and my 5 friends do not have properties that we own. We would like to build homes for our families, right? And as such, each one of us are renting while still staying with our parents and things like this. We could now put funds together and go buy a large piece of land, collectively have it subdivided so that each one of us has now their own piece of land that they can build their own home on, and then individually we can then have that transferred into each one of us individually, and then we can then go ahead and build our homes, right? So that's option 2. Option 3 is you could buy a block of flats and have it subdivided, and each one of you could maybe take a flat. This is if you want to stay or you want to buy it for letting, right? Another example could be you want to maybe buy property specifically just for renting out. You maybe want to buy properties over time so that you can generate rental income. You could once again come together, maybe each one of you could contribute 2,000, 5,000 rands a month and club together. Now over time you'd be able to buy a lot more properties than you normally would if you were on your own, and you could obviously then put a management team and things like this and make sure that things run according to plan. Now guys, I can go on forever in terms of strategies and ideas, or rather in terms of the application, the examples of where people have used property Stokvels before, but I'd rather not go there. I'd rather, I'm sure you guys have your own ideas on what you would want to use a property Stokvel for, right? Now, but the most important thing here is with property Stokvels, this is critical. So if you listen to nothing else, please listen to this. It is imperative with property Stokvels that you have a very clear goal as a collective to say, this is what we are trying to achieve, and we want to achieve it by such and such a date, and have that be crystal clear. The last thing you want is to have a situation where you as a collective agree to say you want to buy properties and rent them out, only to find that one of you guys now wants to stay in the property. And they say, no, but I've got shares, and because that then can cause a lot of confusion and a lot of infighting. And this is something that I'm sure we would all rather avoid completely. So the rules must be extremely clear on what is it that you're trying to achieve. If you want to buy properties and make them homes for your own families so that you can have homes for your families, great. Just make sure that that's clearly stated. That's number one. And so that's option one. Not option, but a definite thing that must be in your constitution. That's number one. Number two, it must be clear in your constitution. You must have a lot of what-if scenarios, rather. That's very clearly stated. For an example, what if one of the members passes away? What happens to their shares? It's important. People, unfortunately, do pass away, so we must make provision for that. What if somebody gets a divorce, right? And they were married in community of property. Now, even if you had agreed to say that you'll only maybe sell all your properties, you could maybe have agreed to say that as a collective you'll accumulate properties for 10 years, and after 10 years you want to then sell everything, and each person will take their money. Okay, great. But now one of your shareholders or members of the Stokvel, right? Now one of your members gets a divorce and they own shares in this thing. And now the divorce settlement says that they must split the shares equally. Are they allowed to sell the shares? Can they bring in someone else that will buy the shares from them? How are the shares liquidated? Think about this. Get legal advice. By the way, guys, I'll say this again. It's not legal or financial advice. Get your legal advisors and financial advisors and your financial planner, and yes, your estate agent in the team that will help you set up the constitution of the Stokvel, the property Stokvel. Because otherwise, a lot of these what-if scenarios will be forgotten or not factored in. And when they come, it will be a huge shock and you don't want to find yourself in a position where you regret having gone into a property stokvel. Another one, what if say now you are 2 years in your property stokvel and you're contributing nicely and you're buying property or properties and everything seems to be going hunky-dory, and now and let's say each one of you is contributing, say, I don't know, 4,000 per month, right, towards the property stokvel. And let's say now that everything seems to be going very well, you have a new problem, right? Somebody comes forth and says, look, guys, I love what you're doing and I'd love to contribute 500,000. I really want to, I don't have the money to pay monthly, but I've got a 500,000 rands immediately available to contribute. Do you say yes or no? And if you say yes, do they now have more voting rights over other people? By the way, talking about voting rights, who's responsible for the voting, for deciding which property is bought and not? Is it going to be on a vote? Do you have an executive that decides? And talking about properties are nothing without management, right? The value of a property can only be sustained and maintained if the property is well kept, well maintained, and well managed. Now, if, for an example, you'll be renting out the property, whose responsibility will it be to find the tenants, place the tenants, manage the property? Will you outsource that to an external real estate agent that specializes with rentals? Or will you rather do it internally, right? Because either way is okay. Do you have the skills to do it internally? And if you do it internally, how much are you prepared to pay? So all these things, all these small moving parts need to be taken into account before you go jump in head first and say you are, doing your property stokvel. I know that it might feel like, paperwork, now we are, it's delaying us. You really want to start and get the ball rolling, but I'd rather invest the time and get the paperwork done correctly so as to avoid a lot of disappointment and pain with stokvels. I mean, guys, we all know, right? Most of us, at least I'm sure, have heard of situations where somebody has now gone and spent Imalia stokvel, right? It happens, right? So, and unfortunately, that's what happens when you don't have your checks and balances in place, when you don't have the right procedures and the constitution in place that clearly stipulates what happens when under various scenarios. What happens if, say, one of your members migrates and they want out? Let's say they really want to, or they lose their job, they can't contribute anymore. Do they forfeit what they've contributed? Are they still members? Are they considered members or not? What happens then, right? So guys, let's please consider all these things, like, seriously, because they are key. They will either make or break your property stokvel. Now, the last thing you want is for anyone to end up thinking that property stokvels are not a good idea just because they didn't plan ahead properly, right? So that's basically it on my side as far as property stokvels is concerned. They are a fantastic idea, and they are a very powerful idea. I mean, most malls and most commercial buildings are built based on crowdfunding. That's what they call it in the US largely, or I suppose it's a term that's growing internationally. Crowdfunding, that's a stokvel basically. So it's usually done on crowdfunding, and as such, it's key, guys, that we seriously do the homework before we get into it. It's a powerful strategy, but like Spider-Man, we all know this from Spider-Man, right? The whole, with great power comes great responsibility. So you must take the responsibility in doing the homework before you spend a penny of your money in a property stokvel. It is otherwise a fantastic idea that I think you should all go for. So yeah, share the video, like it, share your thoughts. I'd appreciate to get all your thoughts on property stokvels and what you think, and questions that you might have, experiences that you might have had. So yeah, like, share, subscribe. Yeah, we love the love, so keep on loving. Thanks, bye.